All right, let me ask you this. In your op-ed, this is what you wrote. By 60% to 32%, Americans felt imposing Harris on the ticket was undemocratic. Interestingly, this feeling was widespread. Among Democrats, 55% thought it was undemocratic to have her replace Biden as the presidential candidate. Among independents, that sentiment of unfairness reached 65%. Of course, among Republicans, her nomination was seen as rigged by the largest majority, 79%. Note, however, that in the survey, the majorities of Democrats, independents, and Republicans believe that nominating Harris this way was undemocratic. Okay, that being said, there are some folks on our side that really are wrapped around the axle about this process. They think he was pushed out. He was. My view is, with 90 whatever days to go, yelling at the refs about the process isn't going to change the outcome of the game. Either we understand our opponent or we get all upset about the process. I get it. It was rigged. I get it. He was pushed out. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. She will be on the ballot. What advice do you have for folks on our side that want to replay this game and say, well, it's not fair that we're running against her and what they did to Biden?
Look, my advice, and this is also my advice to the campaign, is to get as much video of Harris as you can and just keep playing Harris. I mean, I would say, don't believe if I tell you she's a San Francisco radical. No reason for you to believe me. I'm a clear Republican advocate. On the other hand, if I show you the video where she describes herself as a radical, that's a little trickier. If I show you the video where she says she basically would take away everybody's private health insurance, that's her saying it, not me saying it. And my advice is to focus on policy, not personality, and to constantly remind people in her words who she is. I mean, I think the campaign every rally should have sort of a Kamala Harris video presentation.
Thank you. We are simpatico. In fact, I may have stolen the idea from you, so full disclosure. But I think at these rallies, he should go, let me tell you how radical she is, and then play the clip.
Let's just listen to her. Now, she's oh, no, I love fracking. Let's just see what her video says. She had it taped just a little while ago. Let's go.
Will you commit to implementing a federal ban on fracking your first day in office, adding the United States to the list of countries who have banned this devastating practice?
There's no question I'm in favor of banning fracking.
It isn't let me tell you. I'm not going to tell you. She is.
Even better. When we look at a clip where she's on stage with Aaron Burnett of CNN and say, unequivocally, I'm against fracking, no question about it, and then puts out a statement washing her hands of it and saying, I am totally for fracking. When she says, I'm not for, defunding the police, and she's on tape saying defund the police.
Too long, the status quo thinking has been you get more safety by putting more cops on the street. Well, that's wrong.
When she says I never gave to the Minnesota Freedom Fund to release Black Lives Matter protesters and vandalists, and then we pull up this tweet, is it, I mean, we've got a media that is willing to give her the pass. What should we do? Is it just replay the clips more and more, put money behind it?
Not just the clips. It lends itself to an ad in which you have her face, and she says, I'm against fracking. And the face switches to the same face, which says, I'm for fracking. And you say, which Harris do you want to gamble on? And it rapidly becomes
So you think it's better to paint her as a flip-flopper, or somebody, like, would you rather say, hey, she's on both sides of fracking, or that she's anti-fracking?
No, what I would say is, until she became the nominee, she was clearly, totally a San Francisco radical. And now for the next 90 days, she would like you to believe that she left an entire lifetime of politics behind. And she will currently pretend to be whoever she has to be for you to elect her. Now, is that a person you can trust?
Right.
The other thing, frankly, which may become ultimately the killer, is that people are in the end, I think, not going to think she can be commander-in-chief. I mean, if you look at her goofier comments, and this is a little bit of the Michael Dukakis and the tank situation. I should go back, by the way, as I used the word killer, which in the current era is a terrible word I should not have used, and say I clearly meant that explicitly in the political sense that it might cost her the election.
Right. Good. Oh, well, thank you for clarifying. I think no one was confused, but I know how the media would take that out of context. So
it's unbelievable.
The left is obsessed with pronouns. I want to be obsessed about adjectives. You've been a master at words and messaging. If you had to give advice to us about the best adjectives to use when we're trying to describe Kamala Harris, I mean, you talk about San Francisco liberal, whatever, and say, what are the adjectives that we should be using when we talk to our friends and coworkers about who this is? What should we be communicating?
Well, I mean, I'm maybe because of my age and I'm out of touch with the modern world. I would say San Francisco radical. She's used the word radical to describe herself.
Herself.
I don't think liberal is strong enough. And I thought the dangerously liberal ad was not strong enough, frankly. I tie it to San Francisco, because that's where she's from. That's where she began. And I just did an article for the New York Sun outlining the degree to which she was pro-criminal, because she's going to want to play this district attorney, I'm tough on crime, which is just a plain lie. I mean, she cut deals with all sorts of on murder trials. If she didn't think she could win the trial, she cut a deal. She didn't take any risk, and she thought that it was reasonable to cut $150 million out of the LA police budget. A great example. She sent out a tweet linking to a Minnesota fund that was bailing out people, and then later said that it never happened. Now, the tweet's there. I mean, and I think you're going to find, as you get into this campaign, that she will break down over her blatant dishonesty. And as you know, authenticity, one of the things that saved Trump was people thought at times that he was not very acceptable, but he was authentically not very acceptable, and therefore they would accept it because he behaved like Donald Trump. She has a real challenge of beginning to be inauthentic, and the news media will do everything. As you know, last week, several publications were going back and editing what they wrote 2 years ago and saying that they really were embarrassed to now have to tell you that what they wrote was wrong because they used to call her the border czar, and they wrote that she was the border czar.
I know.
But now they're not allowed to say she's the border. I mean, that's literally like Pravda and Izvestia at the peak of the Soviet system.
I showed that video to the audience the other day, and I showed it to a family member. And I was trying to explain that to them, and they said, what do you mean? And because they were saying, oh, is she denying it? And I said, no. You have to see this. Here is CNN saying the Republicans are falsely accusing her of being the border czar. Then here's CNN saying Kamala Harris appointed the border czar. They literally are gaslighting us, trying to pretend that what they told us isn't true in defense of her.
Well, first of all, you probably knew this and I didn't. That actually comes from a 1944 movie named called Gaslight, which is about a husband who tries to drive his wife crazy. I just ran across. I promise. I just ran across this last week, and I had to look it up because I thought it was so weird.
Speaking of weird, we'll get to that.
Yeah, but she was. I mean, here's the deal. The people they don't get this yet. The people who gave us fake news about Trump are now giving us even faker news about Harris. They are going to so totally destroy their credibility by the time this is done, because you now have a big enough conservative movement that people are out here saying, oh yeah, this is what they said 3 years ago, this is what they're saying now, and it just destroys you. When I showed that
video to a family member, they were like, you've got to be kidding me. Because I think it's one thing, this goes back to the point that you were making about the videos of Kamala, right? It's watching it happen. And I showed this, like I said, to a family member, this Grabian video that they did a mashup of her. And it was like, oh my God. Like, I don't think that people fully appreciate the extent to which the media is going to remake her. It's almost like they all got together and said, okay, guys, let's get rid of her past. It's like a movie out of Hollywood. We're going to erase everybody's memory and we're going to pretend this is someone new.
I think the whole thing is just, when you look at it, what you have is the entire left, which has, since 2015, done everything it could to destroy Trump, now has this sudden explosion of energy because they suddenly see a path that might work. I mean, they spent the last 8 or 9 months watching Trump survive, Trump recover, Trump dominate, watching Biden decay and decay and decay, and now suddenly they're liberated. And my prediction is that the liberation phase will last until about Labor Day, and that sometime around Labor Day, things will start to rebalance, and people will start to say, well, that's just not true, and we'll be in a different place.
So you brought up the word weird in a different context. That's the word that Democrats have come to love in the last 4, 5, 6 days. The thing that I find interesting about the attack, everybody's now weird on the right, according to Democrats, right? President Trump, what he said was weird. J.D. Vance is weird. Congressman so-and-so is weird. I mean, that's their, right? But I don't know that moves people. I think it's cute and it's funny maybe to those folks on the left, but I don't know that people vote because somebody's weird or not. They might vote because they're offensive or because their policies are horrible, but I'm not sure. I feel like the left, like everybody thought that what Tim Walz, the governor of Minnesota, said in that one interview was funny, and then they just started repeating it without realizing that might not be the most effective message.
Well, I think it probably accurately represents their worldview. Calista and I the other night realized that we had never seen Hillbilly Elegy. And so we sat down and watched the movie. And of course, Ron Howard is an amazing movie maker.
Yeah.
I'm told the book is even better and more moving than the movie. And I haven't read it, so I don't know. But watching it, what hit me was you have in J.D. Vance, a guy who's made a couple of verbal mistakes doing shows like this.
Let's be clear.
No, I'm just saying it's the nature of, at the time he was not thinking like a national figure. But he has an amazing personal story. And he has, he was smart enough to get, after serving as a U.S. Marine and getting the GI Bill, he was smart enough to get through the Ohio State University in 2 years, summa cum laude, and then go to Yale Law School. So it strikes one that, and then one of our folks the other day read the essay that he wrote on his conversion to Catholicism, and you have here a guy who is quoting St. Augustine and very sophisticated theological ideas. I think over time he's probably going to wear pretty well once we get past the initial media effort to smear him, and you look at who he really is and how he really thinks. The challenge for the Democrats, and I think they're probably going to pick the governor of Pennsylvania to be the vice presidential nominee, and he's a very smart guy. He's probably in JD's category. But their problem is their nominee is not nearly as intellectual as J.D. Vance, and the left wants to attack Vance as being this odd person, while their nominee, by any reasonable standard, we were collecting. We decided that the market's already filled, but we actually were collecting at Gingrich 360 all of the Kamala Harris videos we could find, and a bunch of them are breathtaking. I mean, this is a person who at times you watch this stuff and you just wonder,
what are you going to do with them?
Well, I don't. We're going to make them available, but we sort of decided that we had an idea of putting them out in an organized way, and we decided that the market's going to be filled pretty rapidly by lots of people doing it. But the there are things that she said and the way she said them that the brutality of a video is you're there. I mean,
That's right.
you don't have to do what Elon Musk did the other day and use artificial intelligence to create a fake Kamala Harris. Although it's a very funny video, but and I think went viral, which will be the other thing to watch. I'll be very curious the net long-term impact of, say, NBC or CBS, CNN, compared to the constant deluge of social media. And I'm not sure anymore that the networks win that fight.
Well, if you enjoyed this content, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and click the notification bell to get more.